Threads of Love and Legacy, The Story of Serafina and Arcadio. Part 1. Serafina. Her name was Serafina, a name that danced on the tongue like a melody, the most exquisite name I had ever encountered. She was more than just a name to me. She was my radiant, beloved grandmother, a woman whose very presence felt like sunlight warming the darkest corners of my soul. 20 years have slipped through my fingers since she passed away, yet the pain of losing her still resides deep within me. My love for her transcends time, and her absence weighs heavy on my heart, a longing I cannot seem to shake. Night after night, as memories of her fill my mind, she visits my dreams as an ethereal guardian. Her touch, soft and soothing, wraps me in an embrace, and her whispered words of comfort remind me that she never truly leaves me. Her legacy is a treasure too precious to be lost to time, and to honor all that she was, I share her story, a tale of love, strength, and the indelible mark she left on those she held dear. And now, with reverence and love, I present her story. Serafina grew up in a poor family where the struggle for survival was a constant reality. So scarce were their resources that they often could only afford 2 small meals a day. She had 4 siblings, 3 brothers and a sister, and they shared both joys and sorrows in the simple, harsh realities of life. Their parents toiled on the farm from dawn till dusk, their hands hardened and cracked by endless labor. Despite their tireless work, the income barely sufficed to cover the family's most basic needs. Daily life was a challenge, and the dream of something more often felt like a distant illusion. Despite this, the children found joy in small things that others might overlook. They played with sticks and stones, and their laughter echoed through the fields, a melody of innocent happiness in a world full of hardships. Their clothes were old and patched, and toys were a luxury they could only imagine. Serafina remembered how she and her siblings would stand by the fence, watching other children in the village running around with their colorful toys. Their smiles masked a hidden sorrow, a yearning for what they could not have. Sometimes they would also watch as those children gathered to eat snacks, treats they could never afford. The sight would awaken a quiet ache in their hearts, but they found a way to soften the longing. Serafina and her siblings would prepare their own humble substitute, leftover rice submerged in water, softened to make it easier to eat. They would gather together, sitting close on the worn wooden bench outside their home, pretending it was a feast as they took small, deliberate bites. The taste was bland, but in their imaginations, it became something extraordinary. They would talk and laugh as though they were sharing in the same indulgence as the children they watched from afar. It was a ritual of resilience, transforming scarcity into togetherness, hunger into hope. Even in their meager circumstances, they taught themselves to find joy in the little things they could call their own. When evenings fell and the world around them settled into stillness, little Serafina would sometimes lie awake in her bed, clinging to her worn-out blanket. Her childish thoughts floated between dreams of a magical world, full of colorful toys and delicious food, a world where no one went hungry. Although she could not fully grasp the harsh realities of life, she felt the quiet strength of her family. Their love, warm and secure, was an invisible protective cloak that gave her hope, even in their most challenging moments. Serafina was only 5 years old when the world as she knew it fell apart. One morning, just as the sun began to rise over the horizon, the family lost their father, a man whose calloused hands had tried to hold them together through the storms of hunger and struggle. His passing left a gaping void, a hole in their lives that could never be filled. But life gave them no respite. Just months later, while the grief of their father's death still hung heavy over them, their mother took her last breath as well. Serafina did not understand everything, but she felt the weight of the loss, the way it darkened their home and allowed silence to creep into every corner. She and her siblings stood like small shadows, exposed to life's cruelties. Being so young, they were eventually adopted, but life, which had already broken them, now tore them apart even further. Serafina, the second youngest, was adopted along with her youngest brother into a new family. The 3 older siblings were sent far away to other families in distant towns. Serafina remembered the day they were forced to say goodbye, as if it were etched in her heart. The rain fell as if even the heavens mourned their fate. The older children tried to stay strong for the younger ones, but their eyes, brimming with tears, told a different story. Serafina clung to her eldest sister's hand one last time, their fingers slipping apart like leaves torn from a tree by the wind. The crying that followed was heart-wrenching, a melody of despair that no one could forget. Serafina and her little brother huddled together in the embrace of their new adoptive parents, as the carriage, carrying their older siblings away, disappeared over the horizon. It felt as if their hearts were being torn apart anew, an even sharper pain than the earlier losses. Although Serafina and her little brother were adopted into a new family, it was not entirely out of compassion. The family had taken Serafina in as an extra set of hands to help with the endless household chores. At an age when most children were free to play and dream, Serafina was already burdened with the weight of responsibility. Her small hands became accustomed to scrubbing floors, fetching water, and working tirelessly from dawn until dusk. Her little brother, only 3 years old, was not spared from this life. Though still so young, the family began to teach him small tasks to help around the house. Serafina, ever protective, tried to shield him when she could, by taking on more of the work herself. Yet, their new family was not heartless. Their labor was paid with food and shelter. And in a time when survival was difficult for many, this was not insignificant. The family included them in their celebrations, and they all shared meals together at the same table. Those moments, though humble, gave Serafina and her brother a glimpse of normalcy and a fleeting sense of belonging. But at night, when the day's labor was done and the house was quiet, Serafina's strength would falter. Sitting in the dim corner they shared, she would wrap her arms around her little brother and hold him close. Tears would silently flow as she mourned the family they had lost and the life they once knew. Her brother, too young to grasp the enormity of their loss, would rest his head against her shoulder, finding comfort in her embrace. Together, they navigated this new chapter, leaning on each other to fill the void left behind by the love they still so deeply missed. Although her days were often filled with work, Serafina clung fiercely to the dream of a brighter future. She found solace in the simple moments, scribbling in the dirt with sticks, imagining the letters and numbers her heart yearned to learn. When her chores allowed, she would quietly observe older children studying, her eyes lighting up with curiosity and longing. The spark within her refused to be dimmed by hardship, and she held on to the hope that one day she too might step into a classroom. That day finally came when her adoptive family, recognizing her potential, allowed her to attend school. It was the beginning of a new chapter for Serafina, one where her determination and intelligence would begin to shine in ways no one had imagined. Serafina quickly showed that she was something extraordinary. In school, she excelled with her intelligence and soon became one of the brightest students in her class. With a curiosity that never seemed to fade and an unyielding determination to learn, she impressed both her teachers and classmates. As the years went by, Serafina blossomed into a strikingly beautiful young woman. Her unique heritage, a captivating blend of Chinese, Spanish, and Filipino roots, gave her features that left an unforgettable impression. Yet, it was not her outward beauty alone that drew people to her. There was a quiet glow about her, an air of gentleness and humility that made her presence warm and comforting, endearing her to everyone she met. Though she carried herself with grace, her strength had been forged in the fires of her past. Her life had begun with hardship, but the challenges she overcame were etched into her character, shaping her into a woman whose resilience inspired those around her. She was living proof that even amidst adversity, the human spirit could rise with determination, love, and an unyielding will to move forward. Still, beneath her calm demeanor lay a lingering ache, a void that had never been filled. The memory of her siblings, torn from her side so many years ago, was a constant companion. She often found herself lost in thought, wondering where they were, how life had treated them, and whether they still remembered her as she remembered them. In moments of solitude, the weight of that separation would press against her heart, reminding her that time could never fully erase the pain of being torn apart from those she loved most. One day, after so many years of longing and searching, everything changed. Serafina, now a young woman, finally received the news she had never dared to dream of. She would see her siblings again. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest, each beat echoing as a reminder of the moment's gravity. She stood at the meeting place with her younger brother in the chilly evening air. Her trembling hands clung to her brother's warm hand. Her eyes, filled with a mix of hope and fear, scanned the area, searching for a shadow, a movement, a sign. Every second felt like an eternity, and anticipation burned like fire in her chest. When she finally saw them coming, she could hardly believe her eyes. They were older now, their faces shaped by the passage of time and the weight of trials. But the moment their gazes met, it was as if time rewound, and they were suddenly the children who once shared everything. They ran toward each other, tears sparkling as they streamed down their cheeks. Serafina threw herself into her eldest brother's arms, his embrace as strong and reassuring as she remembered it. At that moment, her sister extended her hand, pulling them all into a group hug. Their sobs mingled, blending with soft, joy-filled laughter a symphony of indescribable relief and overwhelming happiness. "We've missed you so much," her brother whispered through his sobs. "We promise," said Serafina, her voice thick with emotion. "Never again. We will never be separated again." They held each other tightly, as if trying to erase all the years of distance and solitude. They sat together for a long time, talking about their lives, everything they had been through, and mourning the lost years they could never get back. But amidst the pain and sorrow was an overwhelming sense of hope. They had found their way back to each other, and nothing would ever tear them apart again. Serafina and her siblings kept their promise. Though life took them on different paths, they built a strong and united family where the love they shared became their greatest strength. The reunion had given them new life, and together they created a future filled with shared moments, laughter, and support.